Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Start the topic today. Basically, when we started this class, we said that depending upon the loading function, okay, we divided our study of topics in dynamics in basically free vibration and forced vibration. Okay. And let us see how far have we gone, what topics have we covered, so that it gives you like, so we will always keep coming back to this so that you do not lose the sight where we are with respect to our study. Now, loading, we said that let us first consider SDOF system. Okay, because same loading could also be considered for the MDOF system, isn't it? And we'll come back to those kind of things. And not only SDOF, it can be considered for MDOF or like, continuous systems. So these representation can also be considered to represent the body. However, we started with SDOF because it was simpler to do and analytical formulations were easy to derive. And when we'll go into MDOF and continuous system, for specific cases, it is easy to derive all the formulation, but for complicated, we go into the numerical or programming. Okay, so either we do numerical integration using programming using MATLAB or things like that. Okay, now in free vibration, basically, we considered undamped, okay, and we consider damped. Okay, so undamped, we said that this is my equation of motion with initial conditions, this mu plus k equal to 0, and these initial conditions were given to me. And for damped, okay, again the same equation was there, but there was an additional term due to damping and same initial conditions. Okay, so utilizing these initial conditions we could derive. Okay, and I hope you now after the quiz you have revised like what are the formulation for UT here and UT here. Okay, so that so free vibration we had these cases, and in forced vibration we said that, well, I mean there could be different type of loading, and let us just broadly divide in three parts so that we can study one by one. So we started with the simplest forced vibration, which is harmonic. Okay, so harmonic, and we said that same knowledge could be extended to periodic as well. Okay, but we did not go a lot into periodic. We just said that if you understand the harmonic, it should be enough to do the any random type of periodic function as well. Now in harmonic, we said that our equation of motion would be this equal to P of T. And again, as I said, in harmonic also you can have damped and undamped. Okay, I'm just writing both of them together. So this is harmonic where Pt was represented as P naught sine omega t. Okay. And then it could be non-periodic or non-harmonic. Okay. Okay. An example could be, let us say, step function, and we'll review that what do those functions mean. Step function, ramp function, pulse type motions, etc., etc. And there could be random excitation. And we said that example could be seismic, wind, etc. Okay, so till now we have done this, we have done this and this. Okay, but these are like simpler formulation. Okay, in terms of loading, we are still have to do these two, and today we are going to start this non-periodic loading. Okay, and then we can extend the knowledge to random and seismic excitation. And once we have done the same thing for the SDOF, we are going to move on to continuous system and MDOF system. Okay, to see like what additional mathematical formulations are required to understand or find the response to those kind of systems. Okay, all right. So basically, the problem statement for non-periodic loading, the equation of motion remains same. Okay, so the equation of motion for a equation of motion for a linear system is always this, right? And remember, we are only considering linear system here. Okay, and basically these we are first going to assume, okay, let us not say 0, let us say any, these initial conditions are given. Okay. So again, we have to find the solution of this equation of motion. The problem, however, here is now PT is arbitrary or it is non-periodic. So when I say PT is something like this, it is any random. I don't know. I don't know a closed form expression for PT that I can write here. Okay. So first we are going to derive it for any arbitrary. Then we are going to say discuss some special cases of PT. So now PT is something like this. So the question comes, if it is like this, then how do I go about it? How do I derive the equation of motion? How do I find out the expression for the displacement, velocity and acceleration? Okay, so there are different techniques to do it. For example, this PT, okay, what we do, we divide this load into very small time durations. Okay, so this load PT, I'm going to divide it in very, very small time durations. Okay, and so let us say this is 1, 2, 3, and let us say at time, okay, at any random time t equal to tau. Okay, this is another small strip of the applied load PT. And what I want to find out, like in any general case, at time t equal to t, what is the expression for ut? Okay, so this is my goal. Okay, now can I say the response as ut would be due to load that has been applied up to the time t? Okay, so what I'm saying that at any time t, the response would only be due to the force that has been applied up to the point t, right? It cannot be like, due to any force that has been applied beyond that. So it would be due to all these, and I've said that force I'm going to represent in very small duration forces like this. Okay, so what happens if we can somehow, okay, find out a response at time t equal to t due to these small strips. Okay, so if we can find out, let us say response due to this force here, okay, which is at time t equal to tau at any time t. Okay, what is the response due to this? Then I could perhaps sum up or add up all the responses due to all these strips at time t and find out the total response. Okay, now if you look at it, all these strips are similar in the sense they can be represented like these, like this. So in terms of analytical expression, if somehow I can derive for a single strip, okay, the same expression could be used for all these strips except their magnitude would be different. Okay, so I'm going to divide this force into small duration forces. Okay, and if I can derive the analytical expression for one of them, okay, I can find out the response due to all of them just by considering these strips to be of different amplitude. Okay, and then I would sum it up to find out the response at point t. Okay, is this basically plan clear up to this point, what we are trying to do for this randomly represented force PT? Anybody has any doubt what we are trying to do here? Okay, if not, okay, then our goal is to find out. Let us first do that. Let us find out response due to a force which is a small duration force. Okay, a very, very small duration force and which has certain magnitude. Okay, I don't know what is this magnitude. Okay, so basically I want to find out response due to a very small duration force. All right, small duration force, and let us say that it has a very large magnitude, and large is a relative term, of course. Okay, large magnitude, so that if you look at it, this area is still finite. Okay, such that the time integral of this force, okay, so time integral of force is still finite. Okay, now conceptually, okay, this is the definition of impulse. You might have come across this term impulse or not, but we are going to define here today. So basically what we want to do here is to find out a response to, let us first say we want to do it for unit impulse. So depending upon the magnitude of force, I can multiply this unit impulse with the actual magnitude of impulse, and then I can find out. So if I know the response to unit impulse, I can find out response to any other impulse as well by just multiplying with the magnitude of impulse. Okay, so I want to find out response to unit impulse. Okay, so as I said, an impulse is a very large force. Okay, a very large force that acts for a very small duration. Okay, very small duration. Okay, so impulse is any suddenly applied force. When you apply a force suddenly, actually what happens, you see a sudden peak in time history. Okay, and then it dies down quickly. And that would explain, one of the loading that we discussed today, when let us say, vehicle hits the pier of a bridge. Okay, so that can be represented using a sudden spike in the force. So basically impulse is a very large force. Okay, it's a very large force that acts for a very small duration such that the total force, okay, so let us say I have force p tau. Okay, the time integral is still finite, and if I'm considering a unit impulse, I'm saying that it should be equal to 1. Okay, so let me draw that representation again that we considered. So I'm saying at any time t, my pt, I'm taking this small strip. Okay, let us say this was my pt. Okay, I'm taking this small strip which is at time t equal to tau. Okay, and just for the sake of it, let me say this. Okay, duration here is d tau. Okay, again very small duration. Okay, and this magnitude is 1 by d tau, such that the total impulse due to this strip is, okay, 1 by d tau times d tau. This is still equal to 1. And of course, even if you, for a very small strip, you don't need to integrate it. You can just approximate it using assuming it to a rectangular, okay, area here like this. So the area is equal to 1. And you look at it, what happens as you increase the small time d tau to 0, okay, it becomes more and more like an impulse. The magnitude becomes infinity. Okay, so as d tau goes to 0, okay, so that means very short duration load. Okay, your force p tau, which I'm saying this is my p tau here, equal to 1 by d tau. My p tau equal to 1 by d tau, it approaches to infinity. Okay, so as the duration is reduced, the magnitude of force is increased. However, my area or the p tau d tau is still equal to 1. All right. So this is basically the definition of an unit impulse. Okay. And if you have taken a course in mathematics in your undergrad or in your graduate courses, you might have come across a term that is called a Dirac delta function. Okay. Dirac delta function. Dirac delta function is represented as delta x. Okay. And it is basically equal to 1 when the argument of this function or x here is equal to 0, and it is 0 everywhere else where x is not 0. Okay, this is a Dirac delta function. Why I need this? Well, I'm going to represent my unit impulse using this function. Sometimes it is useful if you have to do integration. Okay, then you can utilize this function. Okay, so using Dirac delta function, remember, when inside bracket term is equal to 0, then it is equal to 1. Okay, and can I say my unit impulse can be mathematically represented as a Dirac delta function that is focused at this time here, because only at time tau, t equal to tau, this function is finite. At all other places, this is equal to 0. Okay, so this is equal to d tau. Now, as I know, okay, this d of t minus tau. So this Dirac delta function is equal to 1 at t equal to tau when argument is 0, and it is 0 everywhere else. Okay, so my unit impulse can also be represented using this Dirac delta function. Okay, so this is basically the definition of unit impulse. How does it look like? Okay, when we consider in terms of time variation and how I can represent it mathematically. Okay, once the definition of impulse is clear, let us see how impulse is related to equation of motion. Okay, because in the end, what is our goal? Our goal is to find out that given an impulse, how do I find out the response to a single degree of freedom system? Okay, and in order to do that, first let me consider Newton's second law of motion. Okay, first let me consider Newton's second law of motion, which says, what does the Newton's second law of motion say? It says that if you have a force P that is applied on a body of mass m, okay, the rate of change of momentum of body m is actually equal to the applied force. So let us say the body m is moving through a velocity u dot. So I can write d by dt of the momentum, rate of change of momentum is mass times velocity, which is u dot here. This should be equal to the applied force. And this is basically my Newton's second law of motion. Okay, now if mass is constant here, okay, I can also write this as m u double dot equal to p, which is basically the expression you are already aware of. Okay, equal to mass times acceleration, sorry. Okay, so this you already know, force is equal to mass times acceleration. Okay, now what we can also do here, okay, let us integrate this and see what do we get, or let us integrate this expression and see what do we get. Okay, so if I integrate this p times dt, let us say t1 to t2. Okay, and this I will integrate as, okay, so remember here this expression can be written as d of mu dot is equal to p dt, and I'm integrating this. So this is differential of mu dot. So I can write this as mu2, okay, or let me first write down the whole expression itself so that it's not confusing. This is differential of mu dot, okay, no dt here. And it goes from, let us say, state 1 to state 2. Mass is constant. So I can write this as velocity u2 minus velocity u1. Okay, because I'm integrating this from state 1 to 2. Okay, now what is this term here? This is the time integral of force. Okay, which we have already said that as per definition, this is called impulse. So if you have a look at it, my impulse, which is equal to the time integration of force p dt, is actually change in the momentum of the body. Okay, and you would have derived this previously as well. Okay, I'm just repeating it here. So what do you see here? Okay, the impulse or the time integral of force leads to change in the momentum of the body. Okay, you can write it this as m times change in the velocity of the system. Okay, so impulse lead to change in the velocity of the system. Now let us see how we can employ this to a single degree of freedom system, and what kind of response do we get? So let us say I had at rest, okay, at rest, so that initially the body itself did not have any displacement or velocity. So a single degree of freedom system was initially at rest here. Okay, no velocity, no displacement. However, at time t equal to 0, I basically applied a sudden force to this. Okay, let us say I applied a sudden force to this. Okay, a very large force for a very small duration. Okay, so what will happen then? Okay, so I applied an impulse, not a force PT. Okay, PT is for a very small duration. So let us see what happens. As I said, if you at time t equal to 0 apply this impulse, it would lead to change in momentum of this mass m here. Okay, and let us say this is due to the impulse that we had previously defined at time t equal to tau. Okay, so what I'm saying here, this is PT, this is tau here, okay, and I'm saying this is P of tau, okay, which the total area I know that for this unit impulse is P tau times d tau is equal to 1. Okay, this here is d tau. So I apply this impulse onto this body here. Okay, let us see what happens. The P tau times d tau, this is the total impulse, which is equal to 1, leads to change in the velocity of the mass m. And this is basically u2 minus u1. Now, u1 I already know, right? u1 I already know was equal to 0 because I said that. Okay, so the system was initially at rest. Okay, and suddenly a force is applied so that it acquires again suddenly a velocity which is equal to u of tau. So I'm going to say my velocity, okay, at, okay, technically, it should be u of tau plus d tau, right? Because the force is applied for, okay, duration d tau. But for a very small duration d tau, I'm saying that this is equal to u of t. Okay, and my u of tau, okay, so this is like in very small duration time. So when tau just before the tau, okay, let us say tau minus, my velocity was equal to 0 and the displacement was also equal to 0. So it suddenly acquires this much of velocity. Okay, so now u tau would be, okay, 1 by m. So if you have a unit impulse, right, applied to a single degree of freedom system, it acquires a velocity. Okay, I should write here velocity. It acquires a velocity which is given by this expression. Does it also acquire displacement? What do you think? Anyone? Would it acquire some displacement in the system as well? We derived this expression, right? Did we not derive this expression? Did it lead to something like k times delta u? No, it did not. It led to mass times, okay, change in velocity, change in momentum. So it leads to change in momentum. It does not lead to change in the spring force. Okay, so impulse leads to the change in velocity, sudden change in velocity of the system, not change in the spring of the system. And even if you try to visualize it physically, you would see if you have a spring, okay, if you apply a sudden force, there is no spring force, because in order for a spring force to generate, you need to have some displacement, and suddenly applied force cannot create a sudden displacement. It would create displacement, but after some time. Okay, so at time t equal to 0, there is no sudden change in the displacement. A spring does not get time to react to the applied force. Okay, so there is initially no displacement in the system due to an impulse. Okay, and you can try to relate it to mathematically what we have derived, or you can also try to visualize it physically. Okay, that in reality, if you apply a sudden force, there won't be any sudden change in the basically displacement or the spring displacement of the spring. Okay, there would be sudden change of velocity. Okay, and a very good example to this is like, whenever you apply an impulse, you guys would have played like, snooker. Okay, in that if you take this rod here and then you apply this force, what happens? Suddenly you give it a velocity, okay, which is a finite velocity, and then it moves. But for displacement, for it to acquire some displacement, it takes time. Okay, and that you can think in terms of the differential as well, because to acquire velocity, you just need displacement gradient. Okay, so as long as your velocity displacement is even changing a little bit, okay, even a very, very small quantity, okay, which is almost negligible, you still will have some finite slope. Okay, and this you can see it like this. For example, if you have function like this, in this time there is very change in small change in displacement. However, if you look at the slope of this, you would still have some finite velocity. Okay, so I hope this point is clear that due to momentum, it leads to the sudden change in the velocity, not any sudden change in the displacement of the system. So now, due to this impulse here, I have a system which has acquired an initial velocity of 1 by m, an initial displacement of 0. And if you look at it, there is no force after this impulse. So when that impulse was applied, it's for a very small duration. And then again, you have system that is without action of any force. I mean, in reality, there's force like, these strips are there. But remember, right now, I'm only considering this single part of this force or this strip here. Okay, so it basically becomes free vibration with these initial conditions. So the response due to this small strip of force becomes a free vibration with these initial conditions. And that you are already aware of how to find that out, the response. Remember, what was the response of an undamped? Let us first do undamped system. Ut was u0 cos of omega n t plus u dot 0 omega n sine omega n t. Okay. Now, if you remember, this was for initial conditions at time t equal to 0. But if you look at it, our initial conditions are given at time t equal to tau. Okay. So what I'm saying, for this expression, the initial conditions were at t equal to 0. For us, the initial conditions are given at t equal to tau. Okay, so that means initial conditions are here. And due to this, I have to find out what is the response at any random time t. Okay, so I need to modify this expression so that my response at any time t is due to initial conditions at, okay, t equal to tau. And this expression would become, so I'm basically what I'm doing, I'm shifting the y-axis from t equal to 0 to the center of this point. That is all I'm doing. Okay, so if I'm shifting the y-axis, basically instead of t, I'm writing t minus tau. Okay, so this plus u dot of, okay, sorry, this is not t minus tau, this is tau. So this is displacement at tau times cos omega nt, and this is velocity at tau divided by omega n sine omega n t minus tau. This is exactly the same expression except for time t equal to 0 initial condition. Now I'm substituting for time t equal to tau. So if I shift from t equal to 0 to t equal to tau, this is how my expression would look like.